A hope for the victims of Epstein Island. The Department of Justice just restored online a photo from the Jeffrey Epstein files that contained images showing President Donald Trump after backlash over its removal. The photo, which contained two separate images showing Trump, had been removed by the DOJ from public view after being published on the department's website on Friday. The photo showed an array of items on and in Epstein's desk. One of the photos showed Trump with a group of women, while the other was a well-known image showing him with his wife, Melania, Epstein, and Epstein's now convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now let's see this report.
The files include thousands of new text messages between Epstein and Trump ally Steve Bannon, suggesting that their known friendship was, quote, deeper, chummier, and more expansive than previously known. In the texts, the two frequently discussed foreign affairs and the Trump White House. Also included in the files are about 2 hours of never-before-seen interview footage of Epstein, all conducted by Steve Bannon. And we know that Bannon filmed Epstein for over 15 hours, sometime in the years leading up to Epstein's conviction and death, in an attempt to rehab Epstein's reputation.
Trump is mentioned over 3,000 times in the released documents, but Trump is denying again and again that he has nothing to do with Epstein's files, and he has never been to the island.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me.
Now we have all the proof against President Trump, and all the duties lie in the U.S. Department of Justice, whether they will fulfill their duties with honesty, or if the victims of Epstein's Island will continue to be left without justice. Epstein was arrested back in 2008 over the child trafficking case, but then soon released. Now here is the latest video release by the Department of Justice on Epstein's conversation uploaded regarding his first time in jail back in 2008 about the prosecution.
I was in a place what's called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people.
Did it strike you at the time of the mess you had made of your life and put you in a position, or you had put yourself in that position?
No.
You cannot tell me sometime during that day you did not have that conversation with yourself of how the did I do this to myself?
Did I find it amazing that I was there? That's a better
not amazing. I don't want to say it's not funny. Oh, I thought
I wasn't funny.
Right.
But
not amazing.
No, it was incredible.
Incredible in what way? Incredible, like how do I do this to myself?
No. It's as incredible as me sitting here in this house.
Now watch this interview, where the host asked Epstein a provocative question, whether he is the devil.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Do
you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is somebody knows
smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
The DOJ said in a post on the social media site X, the Southern District of New York flagged an image of President Trump for potential further action to protect victims. Out of an abundance of caution, the Department of Justice temporarily removed the image for further review. After the review, it was determined there is no evidence that any Epstein victims are depicted in the photograph, and it has been reposted without any alteration or redaction. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the image was removed from the website after learning there were concerns about women in the photo, so we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with what President Trump said, Blanche in the recent interview.
We're referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open containing photos of Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public, seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me, and we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate.
But here, Trump is using his powers. A law passed under Trump requires the DOJ to make available all files related to Epstein by Friday. However, the DOJ deleted the original image and a dozen additional images over the weekend. The original image went up on the DOJ website on Friday and was taken down within hours, leaving some framed and unframed images that were shown along with other famous individuals, such as Trump, Bill Clinton, Pope John Paul II, and others.
There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up. The material that we released on Friday, or the material that we're going to release over the next couple of weeks, is exactly what the statute requires us to release, which is everything that we have from this case, with the exception of redacting personal information from victims and other statutes, privileges and things like that. As a general matter, we do not release the files of criminal investigations and prosecutions. Yeah. There's laws around that. There's laws that protect victims, that protect the innocent.
The U.S. Department of Justice has released approximately 3 million pages, 180,000 images, and 2,000 videos related to Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender and financier. These documents represent the largest release since last year's law, requiring public access to these types of records. They were made publicly available beginning on January 30th, 2018. Meanwhile, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, says the Epstein files expose a massive failure of accountability within the American system.
What does the Epstein files represent to you? What is it, besides just the atrocities that occurred and the victims?
I think that what Epstein represents to Americans are these assholes can get away with anything.
Well said.
And I think that what we see today with the Epstein files, after decades of Americans, wealthy Americans, just not taking enough care of their fellow citizens. Never mind the rest of the people on the planet, which I would kind of like if they'd pay attention to that too, but just their fellow citizens. That's a failure of the American political system, and we see it playing out. And it's part of the reason why people think that no matter who they vote for, they can't fix this.
Among other things contained in these records is the name of President Donald Trump, who was associated with serious allegations of sexual misconduct. Allegations of abuse spanning decades also exist. However, officials caution that the internal summaries of calls received by the FBI whistleblower hotline do not provide proof of indictable criminal activity. The White House and Department of Justice have yet to offer any response regarding the newly released documents. Meanwhile, the Honorable Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico, who serves on the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, spoke about the release of the Department of Justice files related to Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal activities. According to Stansbury, millions of documents responsive to requests by the committee have not yet been disclosed, despite DOJ's assertion that it has complied with all subpoenas. She called for further investigation into any relationship between Epstein and Donald Trump. She also expressed disappointment in the many poorly redacted documents that revealed the identities of many victims of Epstein, which she believed was both re-traumatizing and an inadequate means of protecting them.
We know the Department of Justice found over 6 million documents that were considered responsive not only to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but to the subpoena that they have not yet responded to in full. And so we know that DOJ is not compliant with the law. They are failing to comply with our subpoena. We know that they're intentionally withholding work product that implicates the individuals that were being investigated by Department of Justice, including potential co-conspirators. And we know that Todd Blanche went on national television on Friday morning and tried to tell the American people, don't believe your eyes. We're going to show you a bunch of documents, but there's nobody in them. Well, Donald Trump is not only in 5,300 documents, he is named tens of thousands of times in these documents.
According to Melanie Stansbury, the DOJ's release of documents has caused additional harm to victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Survivors have contacted Stansbury concerning how their identities were either improperly protected or exposed, leading to violations of their safety and rights. Stansbury noted that the disclosures have re-traumatized the victims by putting them at risk, adding to the fear that victims experience through the DOJ's previous failures to protect them. Instead of providing victim assistance, Stansbury stated that the DOJ has failed victims while they continue to advocate for their accountability.
These survivors about their efforts to use litigation to stop the DOJ from having their identities placed online?
Yes, absolutely. So since the files began to drop on Friday, I've heard from numerous survivors. I had a lengthy discussion with one of the survivors today. In addition to feeling like their own safety and their rights are being violated by these disclosures, they are also finding evidence of additional trafficking, and other survivors are actually coming forward and contacting them now. So even though obviously the administration is trying to intimidate and silence survivors, because the dam is breaking loose, we are now seeing even more survivors, not only of Epstein's, but potentially of Trump's, that are coming forward now as a result of all this.
Nancy Erica Smith, a civil rights attorney, strongly criticized the Department of Justice's handling of the Epstein files. She argued that the release of the Epstein files from the DOJ was an intentional act that has caused further trauma to the victims by making their identities available and placing them at risk for their safety. The DOJ has made it clear that they are protecting Donald Trump and his allies rather than providing justice to the victims. Therefore, they have now become Donald Trump's personal law firm.
It's definitely re-traumatized the victims. It's disgusting. I don't believe it was careless. I believe it was deliberate. I believe that they're getting what they want. Some of the victims are saying, stop releasing the files. They violated the law and didn't release these files on time, claiming that they were protecting the victims. They have never been protecting the victims. They haven't been protecting the victims since the 32-count indictment in 2008. They've never protected the victims. This is not careless. This is deliberate re-traumatizing victims to shut them up, to shut this down. The only people who they're concerned about protecting are Trump and his buddies. And it's truly so disgusting to treat the victims in this way.
Smith also pointed out that many of the allegations made in the files were never investigated or were never properly investigated. And as a result, survivors may face fear, intimidation, or harassment when they come forward. Soon after the new release of papers with references to Trump in connection with Epstein, both Trump and the people who support him immediately denied there was any connection between the two. They argued that the references to Trump in these new files do not constitute proof of any wrongdoing, and that Trump has never been charged or even accused of any criminal wrongdoing in relation to Epstein.
Comes up 4,896 times when you search the Epstein files, which is interesting considering this testimony from FBI Director Kash Patel back in September of last year.
You said you don't know the number of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
You can characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
it's not.
Be,
it's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Well, he was telling the truth. It isn't 100. It's 4,896, and we still have 3 million files to go.
Despite the presence of many references to Donald Trump in current Department of Justice documents, such as the Epstein files, including references made within thousands of documents and media clippings, these references alone cannot be considered as verified evidence that Donald Trump committed an offense. Although some documents and flight logs show that Donald Trump is connected to Jeffrey Epstein through both documents and flight logs dating back many years, there is evidence that Donald Trump visited Jeffrey Epstein's private island and that he stated publicly that he loves Jeffrey Epstein. Let's see this video.
Even has the audacity to play the old Jeffrey Who card. He wrote, "Not only wasn't I friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but based upon information that has just been released by the Department of Justice, Epstein and a sleazebag lying author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me and/or my presidency." That's right. Trump wasn't friendly with the man he said this about to New York Magazine in 2002. "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." I mean, what more do we need?
In comparison to other notable individuals associated with Epstein, such as Bill Gates, Trump refers to Clinton as one of many others who have a relationship with Epstein and does not express any specific views or opinions regarding him.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, I mean, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me.
According to the Associated Press, at least 16 files disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing President Donald Trump less than a day after they were posted, with no explanation from the government or notice to the public.
We've gotten mixed reactions, Alex. According to the Associated Press, at least 16 of those files that were originally released on that Friday big dump have disappeared from the DOJ website. So Democrats, survivors, and their representation says this is another punch in the gut, really, to what the whole Epstein Transparency Act was supposed to provide, which was, releasing these all out to the public. But we heard from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, as we just saw in some of those clips from Meet the Press this morning, say that this additional redaction, was because of the survivors. And he says those extra files were pulled down from the website because, according to his team, they had missed some people that needed to have additional blurring out or blacking out of the face. There's that one photo that we saw of a desk where there's a President Trump photo there. We are blurring it.
In a recent incident, Donald Trump was offended by a joke made by comedian Trevor Noah regarding his relationship with a convicted pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, and their mutual ties to Epstein's private island. Therefore, Trump described a joke made by Noah as defamatory and included plans on his social media page to pursue a lawsuit against Noah. During this commentary, he not only referenced Noah, but also included Jimmy Kimmel in this discussion, indicating he may be pursuing actions against Kimmel as well if he finds that his comedic material is also distasteful to him.
The files also include 5,300 documents that reference Donald Trump, including unverified claims against him, news articles, as well as emails in which he is name-checked. To be very clear, Trump has not been accused of anything illegal, and he denies any wrongdoing related to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Trump is threatening to sue multiple people over this.
The records indicate that Trump had parties at his Mar-a-Lago estate with celebrities like Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., and Ivanka Trump. The summary states that a former female friend of President Trump was made to orally satisfy President Trump approximately 25 years ago while in New Jersey. According to her, she was approximately 13 or 14 years old at the time of the incident, and she bit the president while orally satisfying him. She said that after she had bitten President Trump, he hit her in the face for laughing at him for having been bitten by her. She said that she had been sexually exploited by Mr. Epstein back then. The authorities' attention has been drawn to a new release of documents that were brought to its attention recently. Officials only state that the release of millions of recently obtained pages, images, and videos is an unparalleled opportunity for the public to obtain access to documents relating to Epstein and his associates. At a press conference, Deputy Attorney General Blanche stated that the Department of Justice will completely cooperate and comply with the request for full transparency. He said, "This document release represents the completion of a comprehensive process of identifying and reviewing documents throughout the federal government to provide full transparency to the American people in compliance with the Act." There was a hunger, a thirst for information, which would not be satisfied by the mere disclosure of these records. He stated, "And we did not provide any form of protection to President Trump, or provide any protection or have any reason to protect any other individuals." The new documents regarding Jeffrey Epstein and old photographs of former President Trump have been made available. While the documents provide detailed views about Jeffrey Epstein's network of associates and support, law enforcement agencies, including the DOJ, state that their mere association with Epstein does not constitute a crime. The DOJ has stated that it would continue to be transparent about its processes, but many individuals believe that more needs to be done to protect victims of violence and ensure that justice is served. We will keep you updated as soon as the story develops, so please subscribe to receive the latest in legal and criminal investigations.